the pop culture field manual.
Long ago, just after the Earth cooled, when I was a little kid, anime was really hard to come by. I remember there was one store in Lancaster that had anime, and it was all VHS, if anybody remembers that. But you couldn't find it. It was fan subs that were sent by the friends of really hardcore anime fans over from Japan to the United States, and that's how we got our anime. Nowadays, the landscape had changed somewhat. Anime
the tides of war have shifted.
The tides of war have shifted. The fog of war is gone, and now anime is everywhere. Now, I'm speaking specifically about Japanese animation, but it seems to me, and Cameron, maybe you can help me out with this. It seems like the word anime has spread to encompass more than just Japanese animation. Anime seems like it's like all animation from everywhere.
Yeah. No, I know, the first thing that comes to mind when someone says anime to me is manga. Is manga inspired pop culture, anywhere from graphic novels to TV series, even to the movie realm. But I think you're absolutely right. Now when we hear about anime, it's just an abbreviation for animation in general. So, we've already here on the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast have dedicated an entire episode on Japanese style anime. But we feel that today it is more than essential and arguably necessary to encompass everything animated, to include Japanese, to include Western, to include everything that pretty much makes it on the silver screen that is not a true person acting it out other than their voices. So, Welcome to the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast. People!
Folks, if you aren't on our Patreon, we highly encourage you to do so. We are now doing video again on YouTube, and so you get the free versions of both the YouTube version and the free listening audio version out wherever you listen to podcasts, or on a YouTube channel, Pop Culture PCFM Podcast or Pop Culture Field Manual Podcast on YouTube. But you get the full versions of the video and audio episodes. You get extra episodes every month if you're on our mid tier, and then our top tier. We have a great time. We do a live movie stream every month with our top tier subscribers on our Discord channel, and we mix it up and have a good time. It's really cool, folks. So if you want more of what you love, go ahead and join us on our Patreon. But yeah, man, I love anime, Cameron. There's one on here in particular that
I love anime.
It's that that it was over for me once I saw this anime, this Japanese cartoon. I didn't know that cartoons could be like this, because anime or animation today, at least, there's all sorts of hardcore concepts and themes and stories that are told through animation, and it's not like just for kids. When I was a little kid, I grew up watching G.I. Joe and Transformers and the like, but it was for kids, right? It was basically, I think, for a lot of American companies, it was aimed at connecting merchandise with the cartoon. It was an excuse to get into merchandising and sell toys. But when I saw Robotech, we'll start off with this one.
I've never heard of this one. So
never heard of it. Well, this is an older one. It's from the early 80s, and there's kind of an interesting story behind it. But when I saw Robotech when I was a kid, totally changed it for me, because not only was it like hardcore, like great action, and like dealt with like pretty heavy themes like an alien invasion where people were getting wiped out by these bombardments from enemy lasers, but a character actually died. There's a character, Roy Folker, in this series, and when he died and he didn't come back, that was like shocking for me. Yeah, as a kid.
That's like uncharted waters in the area of animated series. There's always some innocence that you think it encompasses an animation, but when like they remove all innocence and just input reality into these cartoons, I mean, if that's even what you want to call them, I think it changes the game drastically.
Yeah, and it certainly did for me, man. That series. There's other stuff that happens later on. Other main characters die, and there's consequences that that move the characters forward and the story forward that are really harsh and hardcore, and it dealt with like romance and interspecies love, I guess you could say. But the series of Robotech, I was exposed to a lot of inappropriate anime, and I'll talk about another one here in later on in the show. But Robotech, if you don't know, early 80s anime series that came to the U.S. at a time when not a lot of Japanese animation was making it across the water. But Robotech, the series, is actually 3 different completely separate animes that were brought over. I think Harmony Gold is the company, and they were retranslated and re-edited into one coherent storyline. So the first one, Robotech, is actually Super Dimension Fortress Macross, and there are other Macross series that have like split off.
That's a mouthful.
Thing.
Huh?
Yeah. And then later on, as the story progresses, it kind of jumps ahead to the next generation of people that are supposedly like the children of the characters from the first series of Robotech. Robotech Southern Cross was actually Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross, totally different anime, never took place on Earth. It's like took place way in the future on a totally different planet, but they re-edited it and got different voice actors to play all these parts as if they were like the children of the first series. And then the third series is Genesis Climber and Mospieta or something like that.
Mospieta.
Yeah, but all of them, it kind of worked because all of the series had people fighting, humanity fighting against alien invaders, and everybody had giant robots that they were in. And all of the, like, it was just like really, it kind of like fit, because like the first series, Robotech had transforming jets, and the third series had transforming jets as well, and transforming motorcycles.
Kind of just became a cycle coming back to the beginning of their roots.
Yeah, I guess maybe all these different animation studios, or maybe all these different cartoons, how like they'll be like Deep Impact will come out, and then, another, what was the other, Armageddon will come out as well, like a little bit later. It's like they kind of riff off of each other. Maybe that was the story behind these ones. You guys can let us know in the comments section or write us an email at pcfmpodcast@gmail.com. But I just thought it was really interesting. I grew up watching Robotech and these 3 series together, and never knowing that they were actually 3 completely different Japanese series that Harmony Gold had just brought over and retranslated into one coherent storyline. Which I guess
there was no like deliberate system idea that they're like, we're going to connect all these universes. It was just like they just so happened to kind of like coexist.
Yeah, I guess
it wasn't like what's that series with like glass, glass.
Right, it wasn't like a shared universe, like an MCU type thing.
Yeah. It was, even though they're separate movies, like they can, anything can come over from another movie. Yeah. But it just happened to work out that way.
Yeah, it just happened to work out that way. They were just close enough to where they're like, what we could do is write one coherent storyline that kind of crosses over all 3, and then we just kind of mold them and shape them together. Like they did they did a pretty good job, because the aliens in the second like universe were called the Robotech Masters. Like the first one, they were the Zentradi, which were giant people, like a giant race. But then they have the storyline that they were actually a race created by what's called the Robotech Masters. But the Robotech Masters, I think, are the bad guys in the second series. And then they have a so-called an enemy called the Invid, which are the bad guys from the third series that are their enemies. And then Earth gets caught in the middle. But that just made that up,
Yeah.
But when I watched Robotech, like I said, that was the beginning of the end for me, because I've loved anime ever since. And I was really into it for the first part of my life, my teenage years. And then later on, I think it was, 1, life just takes over. You kind of lose track of stuff. And 2, anime just exploded, man. It just started becoming like everywhere. And I used to fancy myself somebody that could keep up with kind of a couple of different series at the same time. After that, I just kind of gave up, because there was just so much anime out there. You just can't keep track of it all.
Yeah, I think that's one of my issues. But before I get into that, let me ask you, what about this anime like completely stood out? Was it because it was the first that you ever had like true exposure to, or was the reality of like actual tragedy involved in it that like really, let this sink on to where you wanted to talk about it today?
Yeah, I think it obviously probably my young age had something to do with it. And like you were saying, the storytelling, the stories that they were telling were very mature stories. There was like I said, romance. There was a love triangle in the story between between the three main characters, the guy character and two female characters. There was like a love triangle going on there, and heavy duty stuff. Like people died. There was mass death. Like when in the first episode, Booby Trap, the Zentradi attack this island, and they just like wipe a bunch of people out. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, obviously the, characters dying, characters being able to die. It was so impactful or so, so rich in the storytelling. Like I couldn't, it stuck with me obviously to this day. And, I think in my little kid brain at the time, I thought cartoons were dealt with like lighter hearted stuff, like like kid moral lessons, like the G.I. Joe PSAs, knowing is half the battle kind of stuff.
Yeah,
they kind of like,
and especially in cartoons, like there wasn't death, there was just defeat, right? There was like defeating your opponent, and they would just get those like swirly eyes when they're beat, you know, to simulate they're knocked out, but they'll be back. Or like Looney Tunes, like they can shoot them and they're fine. Right,
they can get explode, they get blown up.
They'll come right back.
And you ever notice in all of the, they don't fire guns in G.I. Joe. They fire like red lasers and blue laser kind of type firing. And then whenever an aircraft gets hit, you'll always see a little parachute like floating out.
Like that guy survives.
Yeah, nobody ever really dies in G.I. Joe. People die in Robotech. So ever since then, I think it was just that they were willing to tell a little bit more hardcore, a little bit more adult type stories that really grabbed me when I was a little kid.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, man. For me, like, thinking about like the pool of anime that's available out today, like, I don't know if it's just social media that's made like, finding these animes easier. But I remember growing up, like I got into anime really quickly because I would just go to the local bookstore. Like, you go to Barnes and Noble, and then the graphic novel section was just a corner. It was maybe one, bookshelf that had multiple graphic novels, and that's where I, got my anime. I remember I used to have in my room this long shelf just full of Naruto, Full Metal Alchemist, and the Bleach mangas. And I felt so cool because, like, back then, I mean, today I don't read. I don't freaking read.
Who does that?
Yeah, but I would, like, knock those books out in, like, a day. And it was super cool that instead of reading from left to right, you read graphic novels reverse, so you read them right to left. Yeah. And I was like, this is super different, and, like, I guess my parents were like, oh, he's actually reading. I didn't think they knew exactly what I was reading, because even in like those animes, Naruto, Full Metal Alchemist has a lot of adult themes in there. There's like, human sacrifice. There's basically, I guess, like, you can call their alchemy kind of like witchcraft in a way, like, conjuring demons, supernatural abilities, but like death is a huge theme in there. And not even just regular death, but like child death is like in there. Yeah. And because like in Full Metal Alchemist, like they try to bring back their mother as young kids, and in their pursuit of bringing their mom back, he loses his arm, he loses his leg, he loses his entire brother, that he's, his body becomes like eaten by these, demons, and then he puts his brother into a suit of armor through alchemy to keep his soul alive. Like, those themes for a little kid is like, oh my God. Yeah. But I don't, thinking back all the way to like my first exposure, and I know that was like more Japanese anime, but everybody on this podcast knows that I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Mm-hmm. And like, before I ever watched the movies, because like I was born in '95, so I had a good 6. What did the first one come out in 2001 or 2003?
I thought it was 2001.
All right, let's see. Fellowship release. It came out, 2001. Yeah, 2001. Yeah, 2001. So I was at least 6 when this movie originally came out. But before this movie came out, there was a Lord of the Rings film, and there was The Hobbit was already out, like the Fellowship, like the entire Lord of the Rings series was out, and it was an animated movie.
Yep.
I mean, it was a terrible animated movie.
1977, yeah.
Yeah, the animated movie nonetheless. And I remember I had all 3 of those in like not even the real DVD holders. You know, this was like the paper one that like there was a little plastic retainer on it that like you would unclip, and then the paper mache cover would open up instead of having like those plastic ones.
Yeah,
I remember
like
watching
flip over
those.
like a book, kind of you clip it off and then open it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the plastic little retainer thing.
Those, yeah.
And I remember watching those, dude. And that was, I think, my true like introduction to, you know, adult themed animes. Because I mean, like, in still Lord of the Rings, you have Lost, you have, you know, obviously the Balrog was like not what I have tattooed in my arm back then. It was like this giant man with wings who had like this bull head, or like, no, he had a lion head.
Yeah.
And that was the Balrog. And I'm like, wow.
The Lord of the Rings animated did something with like, it was almost like cell shading, where they would film a live actor and then they would cell shade the cells to make it like it was animated. But a lot of the Lord of the Rings stuff wasn't like legit animated. It was this kind of weird kind of cell shading technology that they did back then, you know.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, to me as a young kid, I was like, "This is a cartoon. This cartoon looks crazy."
Yeah.
It looked like an oil painting.
Live action footage, which was rotoscoped to produce an animated look. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I guess that's not true animation then, and I feel silly talking about it.
We should have a rotoscoping episode now.
Yeah, but now, you know, up until you have those animations back then, and then now, like today, I think we've talked about this one a little bit, but like as far as just animated series that are just in your face brutal, you have to talk about Invincible.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, that one. Honestly, like when you look at a cartoon, when you're like scrolling through on this, it's Amazon Prime, right? Is Invincible?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Invincible.
Yeah, you got it.
And like when you see a cartoon, you know, typically for me, it's not the first thing I want to click on, because you're like, oh, you know, I'd rather watch like actual people, because you're like, oh, I can connect more with these. But I think on a whim, I just chose to watch Invincible one day. And like, I'm so glad I did, because like it smashed all expectations.
Yep.
Because that series is absolutely brutal.
That first episode, the ending of the first episode, I wasn't even going to watch it like you, Cameron, but I saw clips of the ending scene of the first episode when, spoilers, Omni-Man turns on the like International League of Justice or whatever and starts like killing them all. I'm like,
brutally murders them.
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah, because he's Omni-Man. It's like Superman. Imagine if Superman just literally went to the Justice League and murdered all of them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's literally what happens in episode 1. And then after episode 1, every intro, the title screen gets bloodier and bloodier and bloodier when it comes on. And I think like small details like that are awesome. But yeah, Invincible was, as for an animated series, I think that's as good as it gets when it comes to like violence. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, and you know, the satisfaction of subverting expectations in a really satisfying way. Because it starts off kind of coming of age, and his dad wants him to be a superhero, and his powers start to manifest, and you're thinking, oh, okay, this is going to be like a typical kind of thing, but they are leading you into a false sense of security, because at the end, and you don't know why, it's not revealed why he does that for a long time until the end of the series, you know? And so you know that he's not telling you the truth, but you don't know exactly why he did it, you know? And they've got great parallels. I love when they do like the parallels for the superheroes that we know, because Omni-Man is obviously a stand-in for Superman, and there's an organization that's kind of the stand-in for S.H.I.E.L.D., where they are kind of they're a government organization, and there's one guy that's kind of in charge of them. You know, that's trying to figure out how all these people got killed. And there's other kind of stories, you know, in the midst of all that. But yeah, Omni-Man is brutal, man. Like there's that alien race that comes in that his son and his team, kind of the B team, that kind of has to step up now, or is having trouble with. They come from like an interdimensional thing where the time the timeline moves differently for them. And so every time they'll come back like a couple weeks later, but for them, they spent hundreds of years developing their technology and their genetics to come and conquer Earth. And at the
those
last,
alien dudes?
those alien dudes.
Yeah,
At the last one, Omni-Man goes in. He flies. They're retreating because Omni-Man helps his son out, and he flies into the portal into their dimension. And he spends like decades just decimating their entire society. Like he just won't stop. He's like dropping buildings on people. And at the very last thing, he tells them to recreate the portal so he can go back. He's got like a big old beard, because he's been there for decades. And he's got like a mountain in his hand, like above them. He's like, open the portal. And they open the portal, and he just leaves and drops the mountain on them as like the last of their civilization dies out.
Yeah.
It's so brutal, man.
It's good. It's good. Because you think that enemy like is, they're pretty like strong. Like every time they come back stronger and stronger and stronger, and they give the B team, Omni-Man's son's team, like a run for their freaking money.
Yeah.
But then Omni-Man comes in and just decimates them like nothing ever happens.
Yep.
Invincible is an awesome animated series. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and do so. I don't think you're gonna regret it. So why don't you go ahead and pick another one off this list?
Well, let's keep going with these animated series. This is definitely one. I don't think we might have mentioned it here and there in terms of other subjects, but Arcane from Netflix. League of Legends. League of Legends, which is so funny because League of Legends, I was watching my buddy play it last night. Not story heavy, right? Like each character has a little blurb.
It's Dota.
About who they are and kind of where they might have lived and gotten their powers from or something. But it's really more just it's like a placeholder so you can have a bit of a connection to the character that you're playing. But it's not about that. It's about their strategy. It's a live, what do they call that? Live action or what is it? Not turn-based, but why am I blanking on the types of strategy? Real-time strategy.
Real-time strategy. Yeah, because it is. League of Legends is very hard. Have you played League of Legends before?
No, never played it. No, have you?
Oh, really? Yeah, I was on a big League of Legends kick back in the day.
Oh, okay, cool, man.
Just because I started off, I remember growing up, it was Warcraft 3 was like the big game in the teen center that I used to go to. I used to go to this teen center when I was growing up.
Center. That's great.
The teen center.
Good for communities.
And the great community builder. But they would have they'd have a computer lab, and like all the freaking nerds there would play Warcraft 3 all the time, which is real-time based strategy as well. But they had custom game modes versus just like fighting faction and gaining supplies and building your army. But they had faction or custom games, and one of their custom games was a Warcraft 3 Dota. And, I think was Dota before League of Legends? Did it kind of build that game mode? Yeah, I have no idea. But anyways, it was Warcraft 3, but you had 3 lanes. You had a top, a middle, and a bottom. You can pick your hero class, which each class had special abilities. And then as you would fight and as you would, defeat the enemy's defenses, you would gain currency and you would level up. Your abilities would become stronger, and you could purchase equipment that would make you faster, stronger, and give you more health, defense. So pretty much that was my first exposure to that. So when I learned about League of Legends later on, I was like, oh my God, I had so much fun playing this Warcraft 3 Dota custom game. Let's just play it in League of Legends. So I started, and like, oh my God, people are good at that game.
Oh my God.
And you think, it's not a lot of moving pieces. You have like, 5 abilities to use, like 1 through 5, and then you just click to move your character and you right click to attack, and then but there is so much more that goes into it than you think.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was okay, but then you'd get online and just get absolutely decimated by dudes. And and they have, I can see why League of Legends, got so popular, because there's entire tournaments for League of Legends in the professional gaming sector that those dudes are autistically good at this game. I can't. They're like Rain Man for League of Legends. But I think it leaves a lot of, because like you said, there's not a lot of lore that goes into it. Like there's a lot of characters, but I think they open themselves up to creating Arcane, which I think fills a lot of gaps of what they lack in in-game lore. Yeah. Which is super cool because, it's fantasy. Obviously League of Legends has like a lot of cool characters. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes you wonder like, they can make an entire movie just using like 2 characters in this game when there's, dozens to pick from.
Yeah.
So I actually haven't watched Arcane. I started an episode, but I know you're very familiar with it. So why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
I'm a big fan, man. Yeah, and I can highly recommend if you haven't seen it, Cameron and anybody else, definitely. It's because it's the best parts of storytelling about just the human condition. I'm a big fan of any kind of story that tries to integrate just like the fundamentals of our human existence, of human nature, relationships. Even this one, there's a lot of political, kind of universal political issues that it deals with. Themes like family and the trouble that comes with that and stuff, because it takes place in this, obviously there's the stratified city. It's got kind of the upper class, and then the lower class, the slum kind of area. I forget what they call it. It's been a minute, but and the backdrop of the events that you only get to see in flashbacks is like the slums kind of tried to rise up and have this rebellion against the upper class part of the city, and it totally got wiped out, and now there's this kind of like this uneasy peace that exists between kind of the upper and the lower class, and the upper class kind of stays out of the lower class's way, and the lower class, they make sure that they don't cause too many problems for the upper class. So it's this kind of like tenuous situation, and in the midst of that are these 2 sisters, and you guys are gotta be gonna be yelling at me now because I can't remember, because they're the characters. Yeah, there's Jinx and Vi, who are 2 characters from the video game. Yeah, and they're little girls in the midst of the rebellion. And then it kind of jumps ahead 5 years to where they're teenagers, and they're doing the best they can. And then they get kind of caught up in the larger machinations of the different groups, and 4 or 5 episodes in, there's this disastrous event that separates the sisters, and the older one, Vi, with the red hair, she gets thrown in jail, and the younger one, Jinx, gets taken in by this criminal overlord and kind of like fostered by her essentially. And then that jumps ahead again like another 5 years, and the older sister gets out, and she's kind of looking for her younger sister. But the younger sister, Jinx, in the game, she's like this. She's a wild card. She's crazy, and they do a really good job of making her crazy. Like,
really?
Yeah. When she's a kid, she's just emotionally unstable and not mature. And unfortunately, when that doesn't get fostered in a good environment, she doesn't get raised up by any father figures or mother figures for that matter, just by this criminal overlord who kind of molds that craziness into a weapon that he can use. Like, she just becomes completely unhinged,
Yeah, that sounds like the 75th Ranger Regiment.
Yeah. It's like you use that crazy for your own purposes. But then it eventually backfires on you.
And then you just become a terrible person afterwards. Yeah.
But it's great, and the all the music is great. The animation is on another planet. It's really well done and super detailed and intricate, and does a great job of kind of immersing you and pulling you in to this, pulling you into the world. And I love it, man. I hope that I actually hope that if they do another series or another season of Arcane, that they just jump to some other characters and not try to kind of come back to this one, because I thought it ended perfectly. It doesn't end happily, but it ends, I think, perfectly, and perfectly in line with kind of the darker tone of the series itself. But man, oh man, did they knock it out of the park, man. Like, Arcane, man, I can't recommend it highly enough. I would watch it again. I'm kind of a check the block kind of guy when it comes to watching things or experiencing video games. Like, once I've played through something or watched something, unless it's like something from my childhood, I tend to not want to watch it again. This one I would totally watch again. And if you don't know me, that's a really high endorsement.
That is a very high endorsement, absolutely. So you think so it ended just the way you wanted to. Is there any like connection to the series and the title, or is it pretty open-ended to where they can choose like any storyline? Because I mean, League of Legends, like we were talking about before, so many different characters. Like, they can go, 12, 13 seasons easy in that show if they wanted to do other characters every season? You think that's something that's a definite possibility, or?
Yeah, I think they could definitely just have it be like a shared universe kind of thing.
Yeah. That
you hear about other cities where characters are from, but you don't ever get to go there. It takes place all within this one city. That's a part of the lore. So they could definitely just jump to some other characters. Because spoilers, folks, not all the characters in the series make it out okay. And so whatever they decided to do, it would just be because there's so many different kinds of stories you can tell with the kind of lore and the fundament of who the characters are and where they came from. They totally could. They could have characters from this first series kind of guest star or make appearances in the other series.
Yeah.
But I just I don't know. I think it's one of those things where I thought they did such a good job with it. That,
just keep it where it is.
Just leave it, let it lie. Which means that they probably won't, because everything.
They got to make money.
Everything in Hollywood has to be ruined, and they have to mine it for every little piece of little. They have to rehash it and repackage it and make it sequels.
Sure. Well, that's cool, man. I'm gonna have to check out Arcane again, because I know, like I said, I started it, but I didn't really I don't think I gave it the time of day, because sometimes I'll just throw something on the TV just for background noise, and then I'll work around the house or something.
Yeah.
But no, I'll definitely take some time to actually watch that one. One anime I wanted to talk about, going back to Japanese anime, which I actually sat down and binge watched as much as was available to me online, and I'm sure it goes way farther, just like anime does, because for example, the Bleach series, they have pretty much a new animated series on Hulu that I've been watching, and I think it's the Blood Wars or something. Okay. Anyways, that's not what I want to talk about, but that's just an example I'm using. But have you seen One Punch Man?
I have seen quite a few episodes of One Punch Man.
Yeah. No, I love One Punch Man. It's awesome. I think it's silly enough to be entertaining, but then you have the awesome epic, character designs and monster battles that you love, that are just over the top, that you couldn't do in any live action. And what separates anime, from live action, One Punch Man is awesome. And he's not your typical protagonist. He at one point had hair. And what was it? Was it a lobster, or was it a squid man or a crab man?
Yeah.
That beat the crap out of him, and he's just I won't let that happen again. And then he does his One Punch Man workout every single day, which I want to talk about with you.
Yeah.
And then he does his workout, and his body changes so much that he can't support hair anymore, and that's why he's bald. Yeah, but his workout isn't the craziest thing in the world. I mean, obviously what is it? He does it every day for
3 years or something like that.
Something like that.
Because the android guy, he meets an android who is the kind of classic made by a mad scientist for good to fight crime or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's always trying to become better. So he experiences his One Punch Man's power, and he's like, "You must teach me, master.
You have to teach me.
You have to teach me your ways." And
his
workout.
And there is no way. There is no way. He's just this guy. He does random shit all day long.
Yeah.
And there is no method to his madness. The only thing he does, and when he tells him his secret, the guy's like, "Wait, what?"
You must be.
He's like, "If you really want to be
very carefully, yes.
Yeah,
you think it's going to be this amazing thing."
Yeah, it's you need to go, bathe in this secret, temple that has, magic water that will enhance your powers. But no, this dude literally he's like, every day you must do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10K run every day. And he's like, are you serious?
And you can't skip days, even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the hardest part about doing that would be a 10K every day.
Yeah.
The 100 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, I don't think is very challenging.
It's 6.3 miles or something?
Yeah, but no, you're running, I think it's 6.2. 6.2 is a 10K.
Okay.
I believe so. All of those, 10K runners, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 6.2 miles. But that's a lot of mileage adding up every single day. Mm-hmm. But still, you don't get the strength to punch through buildings and create absolute volcanoes in the world just by punching the Earth's surface by doing that, which is so ridiculous of an idea, which I think makes the show absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Because, like, he doesn't really go through any, like, besides the episode where he's like, I can't be beat again, he doesn't really go through any, trials or tribulations by, like, enemies that he fights. He never has, like, a fight that that he thinks he can't win.
Yeah, that's his thing. Is every fight he has, he can beat him with one punch.
One punch.
That's what
and it doesn't matter how big, how bad the bad guy is. He just decimates them every single time.
Yep.
So that's one thing that I think is so awesome, because they'll spend so much time like building up this enemy as like so hard. And don't they have like the hero? There's like this association of heroes that ranks them based on their abilities.
Yep.
And like he's the strongest superhero in the world, and he's like D class.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I love his attitude too in the beginning, because he's like really depressed because there are no challenges anymore.
Yeah. Nobody can beat me. Yeah. He's just like whatever. And he doesn't help anybody. He just beats the crap out of these monsters that show up.
Yeah, and he lives in this little studio like apartment, and for Japan it's like really small. It's like one room. Yeah. And he's a bit of a slob too. Yeah.
He's like not a good guy. He's just like he's just like this, super. Could you imagine if like the guy that never left home until he was like 33 years old and just got like his own single room apartment, but he just happened to be the strongest superhero in the world, and he just doesn't want to do anything with his life.
Yep.
Like that is One Punch Man. Yeah.
Wow, maybe might be hitting on some like deep themes in One Punch Man. Maybe there's some Japan you guys need to talk about. You want to talk a little bit and let us know what's going on over there.
You're like, you need to move out of your mom's basement because you are the most powerful man in the world.
Yeah. If you just realize your own potential and stop being so lazy and eating crappy 7-Eleven food all the time.
Yeah, all day, but you can lift anything and punch anybody and kill them in one blow. Yeah, but I think One Punch Man is absolutely entertaining. It's just so ridiculous, and like they do such a good job of just like building up these enemies with like character design. And in classic anime, like when the character faces a pretty substantial threat, like there might be 6, 7, or an entire season dedicated to beating one foe, or they get beaten, and then there's this trial where they have to master a new ability or something that will barely allow them to beat the bad guy in the end, where they have like this awesome kind of like rebirth or like this awesome transformation.
Yep.
But in One Punch Man, there's none of that. Nope. It's just he eats like a donut from 7-Eleven, and this ginormous baddie that's like hell-bent on world domination and is like leveling cities, he just comes across this guy and just gets beaten in one punch, like and that's every episode.
I love it when the cyborg guy is like at his house and he's asking him, I think they're getting ready for the superhero trials or whatever, like to go, and he's like, you must give me some wisdom. And the guy, like, One Punch Man gets like a really serious look, and he like tells him some sort of like kind of esoteric, like weird philosophical jargon, and the guy's like, yes, this is really good. And inside his head, One Punch Man's like, oh my god, I can't believe he fell for that. I totally just made that up just now.
Yeah. And then that cyborg like obviously knows he can't beat this dude, but he becomes like an A-class hero when he goes, and then One Punch Man, his like teacher, becomes like the worst hero class ever. With that, he's like on the same level as that guy who rides a bike around. He has no superpower. He just wears a mask and rides a bicycle. Yeah,
and everyone loves him. Like when they
everybody loves that guy. He's the type of hero that'd be like, "Oh, get your cat out of the tree," and everyone's like, "We love you."
He can't get One Punch Man. Just can't get any recognition. Like they think he's like a creeper or something.
Yeah, no, I think it's because he's socially awkward. He's like super socially awkward.
Yes.
Yeah. So true. Like, there's everybody thinks heroes are supposed to be like a role model. And everybody looks up to them, and they know exactly what to say all the time, and like they can inspire hope in like weak, and they become a beacon of light. Yeah. But One Punch Man's just not that guy.
Nope.
Yeah. So he like can't fulfill the role. He's just like break glass in case of emergency type hero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, so good, man.
One animated. I kind of consider this almost Japanese animated, but it's totally not. But they have a movie that they, animated. And this is one piece of pop culture. And I don't even want to say it's pop culture because I think it's historical culture that I was at a young age, I got super into because it just, it was just so interesting to me. And it's Dante's Inferno, the epic poem. Yeah. And that poem at a young age, right? They made a video game out of it titled Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
And I remember when the video game came out, it was so, for some reason, the trailer was just super cool. It had an awesome soundtrack to the game. And it was Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone. It was just super cool trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer for it when it came out, it's epic. And but if you don't know Dante's Inferno, Dante was he was a warrior and during the Crusades, and pretty much he's gone for a long time. And during his Crusades, he did a lot of sinning. And one of his sinnings was obviously he cheated on his love Beatrice while he was away. And pretty much the devil comes and takes Beatrice's soul because she's murdered. And it's just a way for the devil to get back at Dante's for all, his sins. And basically Dante, doesn't accept that Beatrice is gone, and he literally goes to hell to try and rescue her soul and, bring her to heaven. And he goes through the 7 circles of hell, because everyone thinks hell is just this fiery place. But, when you have this ideology, and I know hell, obviously you're very familiar with all the religious aspects of hell.
Sure. And
everyone thinks it's based off pop culture. It's just this, terrible place with a bunch of fire and everything. But in the poem, obviously it's a terrible place. Yeah. But there's so much more than just what you think it is. There's different circles and there are different levels. There's 7 circles based off the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah. And
each circle that he goes through has different trials and tribulations, whether it's greed, lust, rage, and they all have these just crazy looking bosses and characters within them, which for me, I've always been a huge monster fan, always a big fantasy character. If you can come up with a solid terrifying, gruesome looking character, I'm in it full bore. And Dante's Inferno did that for me, but they turned it into an animated epic, which is literally what it's called. It's called Dante's Inferno Animated Epic. And I think it's on Amazon Prime. And it's an entire movie just about Dante's Inferno. And I think it's super entertaining. But it also has, adult themes. You see Beatrice's nipples and stuff. And, and it's super, it's super weird seeing cartoon nudity. But this is one anime / video / epic poem that I just wish would get turned into a live action movie.
You think it would do? You think it would translate well into a live action movie? Do you think there's something that would be cool to see, or something that they couldn't do in the animated movie or epic? That
I don't know. I just feel I don't know. I just feel it's obviously when you're thinking of this type of universe or this type of setting, it's way easier to do in anime because building sets or programming the CGI would be almost next to impossible. Right. Because it's things we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Because it's hell. It's literally, an idea of, a place that nobody is, can say firsthand that they've seen, experienced, and translated. It's based off writing. It's based off tale. And it's, I don't know. It's just so I think it would make one of the most epic fantasy movies of all time.
I would love to see live action, a series, because it looks like there's so much to it.
It'd be 7 episodes. I think it would be great. Every circle is an episode, a series, or something live action. Just because there's so many themes. There's betrayal. He goes through every single. How do I say this? He goes through every single fault in humanity.
Yeah.
So and every time he goes there, he either, has experienced it himself to where he's facing some trial or tribulation where he's literally combating himself and what he's done in his past, or he encounters somebody, that he's seen through his, in the Crusades, that their soul is there damned and they're going through it. Yeah. So it's just really deep. It's very it's not a child movie at all, for sure.
No, definitely.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's always this I think curiosity to me, because nobody's. This is all the imagination.
Right.
turning this epic poem. When you read literature, it's something I really like. Is for example, Dune. It's based off of a book. But when you take these words and you turn them into something visual, other than scripture, I always love to see what like the human mind can like interpret and turn into something visual.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big visual guy. That's why I don't read. Like I'll listen, but I like to watch.
You like to watch. You don't read.
I like to watch. Let me watch.
No, it's wild, man. And translation is an interesting process when you are translating or adapting something from a book to the screen, because they're two different mediums, right? Like you say, movies, television, those are primarily visual, right? Because you could do audio dramas, or you could read a book, or you could watch something. And so how do you bring all these images to life, and like you say, Dante's Inferno is one of these classics, these like epic all-time classics of literature that has so much depth to it. And it's like, are you still going to be able to bring that kind of depth when you visualize it? Or are you going to have to, can you bring it in a different way to where the audience still gets the depth? But you can't use all the words that he uses, because we're not doing a novel here, So I respect that, man. Dante's Inferno is one of those classics. I've read half of it. I've read the hell part, but not the paradise part, because he kind of goes up through. He goes into hell, he comes out through purgatory, and then he goes into paradise. But that's pretty cool, man. I never.
And correction, it's not 7 circles; it's 9 circles. So it'll be 9 episodes. 9 circles. Yeah. Limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, anger, heresy, violence, fraud, and of course treachery.
There you go.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. But anyways.
Right on, man.
That's one I thought was super cool, especially in the video game. The video game is tight. It's like, it's really fun to play.
That's cool, man. I never did play that. That was our PS2, PS3?
I think it was PS3 or something.
Okay, right.
I know it's available on Xbox. I recently picked up an Xbox and I've been gaming it up.
All right.
So like it's available on Game Pass there. So I was thinking, I've played it before, but like way back in the day, because it came out like a long time ago. And a long time ago for me is like early 2010. But cool, man. I think we've hit some really good ones. We have such a long list here, and we're gonna have, just like we do in classic PCFM fashion, we're gonna have to do another episode,
Part 3, man,
on animated series, because there is so many. We didn't even knock out half the list we have here.
No, we didn't, man. No, but that's okay. You guys, don't worry. Keep an eye out, or keep an ear out, rather, or both, for anime or animated Part 3. We'll move on.
And then we're going to go to Part 20. Probably,
Part 20, yeah. We're going to have we're going to have an offshoot podcast that's just about animation, which I'm sure there are some out there. But,
well, let's move on to our fan question before we get into the game and wrap this episode up, because I'm pretty sure you guys have arrived at your location from driving already, so you probably want to get out of the car. But this fan question comes to us from Ryan Grant, and it's via our email. And just like Izzy said at the beginning, if you guys have any questions for us, please shoot us an email to pcfmpodcast@gmail.com, or shoot it to us on Instagram, pcfmpodcast, or if you're a wonderful patron of ours, you can shoot us a direct message. And if you are on our Discord, same. But Ryan wants to know, if you could exist in any anime world, which would it be? Ooh. So many to choose for. What
about just from the list that we have or something?
Oh, from the list? I already had my answer that we talked about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to live by your rules. Sorry. No, for me, Naruto, dude. It'd just be so cool. Like, that was like my jazz growing up, was like the Naruto mangas. And I just think it'd be so cool to learn, or to basically become a ninja and to do all these crazy jitsus and, be able to spit fireballs out of my mouth. And, obviously there's a lot of risk involved. But, that was like my first exposure to Japanese culture was Naruto. And I think it was in 3rd grade, 3rd or 4th grade, I started getting into it because I had a friend that was like huge into it. And I remember eating top ramen for the first time because I thought that was authentic Japanese ramen.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What about you, dude?
I mean, just we didn't get to it in this episode, talk about in depth, but Ghost in the Shell, that world, I always loved sci-fi, high technology, cyberpunk type era. I'd love to be working for, what does she work for? What, Section 7? Section 6? Section 9? Anyway, she works for one of the sections in this multinational corporation-run nation. But I'd be down with like cybernetic implants and stuff, only on the high-end level. Because obviously it's not just living in this animated world or animated universe. It's being able to choose your role within it. Because I just went on to be like a regular person in the Arcane series. I'd be like some slum guy. But Ghost in the Shell,
Slumdog Millionaire,
some police officer working for Section 7, going out fighting the cyber bad guys and stuff. Because I just found that to be so intriguing, And hey, I don't want anybody talking bad about the live action movie with ScarJo. I like that movie. I like that movie a lot.
There's a Ghost in the Shell live action?
Yeah, dude, it was back in 2017.
I haven't seen
Scarlett
it.
Johansson was in it. The movie itself was visually beautiful. The story left a little bit to be desired. It wasn't the best told story, but it looks awesome. You could definitely tell.
I had no idea. I'd have to go check that one out.
Yeah. Go check it. Tell me what you think, man. I thought it was pretty cool, pretty action packed.
I will, absolutely. Okay, well, cool, man. Ryan, we hope we answered your question, and we also hope we didn't disappoint. Do you want to transfer to our game, or do you want to talk about real quick just dishonorable mentions?
Dishonorable mentions.
I think these are great. I mean, they're animes that were made into live action films that should have never been done. Do you want to just graze over them really quick?
Yeah.
And we promise you no tangents, just real quick.
That's
just
right.
Do it
real quick. The live action Dragon Ball Z movie was garbaggio.
Oh man, it was terrible.
It was. I don't know. It's almost like beyond words, like how to describe. Like it's almost when they take the most superficial aspects of the cartoon and they just kind of tell this other story, that kind of loosely has to do with. But it's just, I don't know, man. It's translating anime is really tough because
it is tough.
It's so stylized. It has such a certain character and a certain feel to it that you really have to, I don't know, you got to think about it. It's not, I think what a lot of anime translations have done, this one and then another one on the list here, is they take the most visual parts of it and they think, oh, that's the show. That's the part of the show. That's what makes it good. And it's not what makes it good. And I don't, I'm not good enough to say what exactly are all the aspects that make certain anime amazing and certain anime not. But I think the visual stuff is, I don't know, man. I don't think it's the most crucial aspect.
I agree. And plus, like, one of the things that makes anime great is, like you said, it's the visual, but I don't think in a live action version you can emulate that, because in an anime everything is super dramatic, everything's emphasized, everything's over the top. Like the hairstyles, for example, like if you saw anybody walking on the street with a Yu-Gi-Oh haircut, you would immediately bully them. So it's like sometimes anime is like a good escape to be able to creatively do these things, because in the Dragon Ball Z Evolution movie, they just pick some random white guy and then they give him a Goku haircut and he looks like an idiot. Like it's that ruins the movie for me, at least. Like, it doesn't matter about the storyline, whatever, but if I'm watching something and I can't take it seriously because it just looks so dumb, I'm not gonna get into it. But we promise no tangents. Because talking about this real quick one, the Avatar Last Airbender live action movie that they made, that was an absolute take a national treasure and just take a hot steaming dump on it and then call it art. That was that for me. But any quick comments you have on that one?
I never saw it. I was never into Avatar.
Dude, just save your time.
Yeah, okay.
Save your time.
All right.
They're actually, I think they're trying to make another live action series on Netflix, which I'm really hoping. Because I love Avatar Last Airbender. That was like me growing up. And I even watched like the spin-off like afterwards with oh my god, I'm totally blanking on it, but they had a spin-off with
the water girl, Legend of Korra.
Yeah, Korra. Yeah, Legend of Korra. I watched that one too, and that one was great too because they like introduced like the changing of time from like ancient China or whatever, obviously it's Chinese influence or Japanese influence. Yeah. And they like introduce like, technology and like steam engines and whatnot. And it's just super cool. But anyways, I really hope that turns out to be good. But we have a game to play. Let's play this game.
Yes,
dude. Yeah.
I have the game here. And this game is called Cartoon It Up Part 2.
Cartoon It Up.
While it's a sequel to the game we played last time when we did an anime episode, it has nothing to do with the other one. other than its terrible name. So thank you, Chris, for coming up with this
Thanks,
game.
Chris. Appreciate that. I thought it was going to be like a game where it was like, what's better, the Uchiha or the Uwu?
Yes, this is a lot more simplified.
Okay, perfect.
This game is for you, Cameron. I'm the game master. This time the game is a lot harder, though, so you probably won't survive. All you have to do is tell me the order in which these 5 Hayao Miyazaki films were released, from oldest to most recent. So you don't need to know the year, but you have to start with the beginning and tell me the order that they were released. And Alex,
and that's awesome because I have no idea who Hamatama Miyazaki is.
I'm a big fan of his. We've talked about Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So, well, this is absolutely going to be a slaughter because I'm pretty sure they all came out in the same year and the same month.
I think we just need to rip the Band-Aid off, Cameron, and just
let's do it, man.
So I will give you the movies in no particular order. You give me the correct order in which they were released from furthest away to closest to us in timeline.
Okay.
Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, Porco Rosso, and Ponyo.
Oh God!
I was like wah 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 wah. I just said like random words
like,
to you.
Padokodo and Padotu. That's what I got from there. I mean, I'll try this because I've seen Spirited Away. I've seen My Neighbor. What's his face?
My Neighbor Totoro. Okay, good.
Yeah,
all right.
Totoro.
So you have a bit of a range there.
Yeah,
just gotta fill it in.
Because I know Spirited Away came out some time ago. I'm gonna go ahead and say the earliest was, what are the 3 besides My Neighbor and Spirited Away?
You got Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, Porco Rosso, and Ponyo.
Oh man, I think
3 P's.
For some reason, Ponyo is like stands out to me to be the newest one.
Okay.
I don't know why. That's just a hunch. So I'll work my way from newest to oldest.
Okay, so
I
I'm
have
gonna
Ponyo.
put Ponyo. Okay.
Ponyo is the newest. I'm going to go The Princess after that.
Okay.
And then I'm going to put My Neighbor, Potudo. I don't know. I still don't know how to say that. And then the other P one, and then Spirited Away as the earliest, which I know is completely false. But I just have to submit answers here because I have no idea, to be honest. So how did I do?
So give me that one more time. Ponyo, Princess, Totoro,
Ponyo,
Porco.
Yeah.
And then
Ponyo, Princess, My Neighbor Papa, the other one,
Porco Rosso,
Porco Rosso, and then Spirited Away as the oldest.
Okay. All right. Away. All right. Well, let's see. Let me get these things lined up.
If I got one, I'll be happy.
You got 2 of them.
Oh, nice. Nice, dude. I'll take it.
So you had Spirited Away. You had from oldest to newest: Spirited Away, Porco Rosso, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, and Ponyo. The actual order is My Neighbor Totoro in 1988, Porco Rosso in 1992, so you got that one. Princess Mononoke in 1997, Spirited Away in 2001, and then Ponyo in 2008. So you got the correct order with Porco Rosso and Ponyo. Everything else was kind of just mixed up.
Okay, dude, I'll take that, man. I'll take that.
That's good.
Because, I mean, it's hard to date a cartoon, right? Especially like an anime. Like, looking at it, especially if there's a difference between a decade, most of the time you're not going to get them.
Well, this one, I mean, when it comes to things like Ponyo and Spirited Away, they started to use a little bit more computer animation. So that would be one of the giveaways. But all the other ones, like you say, that, Princess Mononoke, if you've seen them, you probably might know. But if you were just basing them on the same animation studio, I could see how that would be kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
Because they're really well done, man. He used to hand draw that's half crazy. The cells for all the different, like, dude, there's a documentary on Disney Plus about Miyazaki and him retiring and like looking back on his life and stuff, and it's just like he was kind of a hardliner too, to like work for, man. He was like very uncompromising and stuff. So Put a lot of.
It's my vision, and that is it.
Yeah, but that's it, man. You got 2 out of 5. Very good job
I'll take
considering how hard it was. So
yeah, I'll
nice
take
job,
it. Thanks
man.
for the game, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, that's all I got. Cameron, what about you?
I got nothing, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. More to come, especially in the world of animation, and we look forward to having you join us on the next podcast. And with that, Izzy,
Cue music.